Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ultimate Fashion History for this week's episode of Small Screen Fashion History This Week, my little weekly roundup of the fashion history I've caught on TV over the past 7 days, some of it in the most surprising places. This is for the week ending March 17th, 2019. Before I get cracking, if you haven't done so already, you can just click that little icon down there to subscribe, and don't forget to click the notifications bell on your YouTube page up there to get informed when there are new episodes up on the UFH. So what have I been watching over the past 7 days? Well, I rewatched all of the 6-part BBC 1994 Dickens adaptation Martin Chuzzlewit. It's streaming on Amazon Prime. It is without a doubt my all-time favourite Dickens adaptation. Martin Chuzzlewit is my favourite Dickens book. I love comedic writing and it really is his funniest book. I hadn't seen the series in years. My husband, it turns out, had never seen it, and so we watched it together. And talk about an all-star cast. You've got Tom Wilkinson, Paul Scofield, John Mills, Elizabeth Spriggs, Pete Postlethwaite. I could go on and on. It is fantastic, it is delightful, and every performance is a star turn. The costumes were by Jeremy Turner and Delphine Roche-Gordon, and they did a remarkable job because, of course, it's Dickens, and so they had to costume at every level of society and every age. You know what big casts Dickens always has in his novels. So they had to dress the rich, the very poor, the very young, and the precious old, and they did it all with such incredible aplomb and attention to detail. Yet what I found to be particularly delightful about the costumes was how much they drew from the original illustrations by Phiz from the 1840s. There is Mr. Pecksniff, and here is Tom Wilkinson in the TV adaptation. Oh, and poor, put upon, but heroic Mr. Pinch there. And here is Mr. Pinch in the TV adaptation, so similar. And there's my favourite character, Mrs. Gamp. And there she is, played brilliantly by Elizabeth Spriggs in the TV adaptation. We finally geared ourselves up to watch the new adaptation of Agatha Christie's A.B.C. murders, starring John Malkovich. I was quite nervous about seeing it because I am such a huge Agatha Christie fan, and I haven't been that fond of the recent Sarah Phelps adaptations because they're so dark. They're too dark for me. Still, I have to be honest, if I didn't know Agatha Christie, if I'd never read the A.B.C. murders, and if I didn't know David Suchet's brilliant performance, his seminal performance as Poirot, then I'd have really enjoyed it. However, I do know Agatha Christie. I do know the book. And we all know that David Suchet is the only true Poirot. So, it was okay. John Malkovich was great. He delivered a fantastic performance, but he didn't play Hercule Poirot. They even had a different backstory. He played the character as written in this adaptation perfectly, but he was a tortured soul with inner demons. Why does everyone on TV these days have to be a tortured soul with inner demons? We all know that Poirot of the books and Poirot of the Suchet adaptation was not a tortured soul with inner demons. But anyway, I'm not here to critique the show. I'm here to discuss the costumes, which were great. The costume designer for the ABC murders was Lindsay Pugh, and I always love her work. I love the way she plays with palette, I love her work with textiles, and I love her attention to period detail. Just as with Martin Chuzzlewit, Lindsay Pugh had to costume for every strata of society. The ABC murders does not just involve rich people in stately homes. This is Depression-era Britain, and so she really had to convey what people at the very lowest ebb of society wore, as well as the rich and stylish. I thought some of the hemlines were far too short for 1936. They really looked more 1939 and 1940s, but I'm just quibbling now because for both female wardrobe and male wardrobe, the costumes were spot on. My issue was with hair and makeup. For most of the series, hair was great. These soft Marcel finger waves, so popular in the 1930s. But you see this character here. At one point, she undergoes a makeover in order to vamp the young master of the house. As a character, she is a smart, sophisticated, and urbane person. So imagine my surprise when, after her makeover, she comes back with this hairdo. What is going on? It's 1936, not 1926. This jarred terribly with me, and I wondered, what were the hair and makeup department thinking? Well, I think they wanted to suggest that she had undergone a massive change and to suggest that she was now putting herself in the role of a sexy vamp. And so let's do Louise Brooks. Everyone knows she was a sexy vamp. Yes, she was a sexy vamp from the 1920s. If they wanted to convey sexy vamp, why not put her in a wig that evoked the platinum curls of Jean Harlow, who really was the sex goddess of the decade? But I'll always find things to gripe about, won't I? Overall, the costumes in the A.B.C. murders were wonderful. Oh, look, I've just spotted one of those skirts. That's way too short for 1936. This is more akin to hemlines in 1936. That's the Queen Mum. Isn't she great? Anyway, of course, there's a UFH on the 1930s and a UFH on the difference between the 1930s and the 1940s. And finally, like I always say, fashion history can be found in the most surprising places if you watch as much TV as I do. This past week, we have been rewatching every season of An Idiot Abroad. Now, you either think Carl Pilkington is the funniest man who ever walked the earth, or you don't. I happen to think he is. And in an episode I watched last night, Carl is sent to Inner Mongolia to do some Mongolian wrestling. Here he is in Mongolian traditional wrestling attire, but you'll see he kept his own underpants on underneath and doesn't look quite as commanding as an actual Mongolian wrestler. I was so intrigued by this costume that I did a bit of research, and it's even more interesting than it looks. It starts with this hat, of course, and the more yellow piping that appears on the hat, the more championships the wrestler has won. This is called a shudak, and as you can see, it's sort of a Mongolian underpant. And the reason that Mongolian wrestlers don't wear long pants is because it would give their opponent the advantage of grabbing their trouser leg. These boots are called gutal, and they are embroidered leather and turn upward at the toe. Although these days a lot of Mongolian wrestlers evidently wear Western cowboy boots for no other reason than that they like them. But the most interesting bit of kit here, with the best story behind it, is this very odd, tight jacket. It is called a zodog. That is so much fun to say, a zodog. And here it is at the back, and you can see what looks like a rope that's tied around his waist are actually the straps of the zodog. Why is he bare-chested? Why doesn't the jacket cover his chest? Well, this goes back to a legend that once there was a champion wrestler who won many, many tournaments, and then one day ripped the front of the jacket to reveal breasts. It had been a lady wrestler who had been winning all of these tournaments. And so, centuries ago, it was decided that the zodog would have no front, so that this sort of duplicity could not happen again. Evidently, this type of attire has been worn since the days of Genghis Khan. And wouldn't you love this? It's called a janga. And this is given to champions. It's sort of this necklace formed from a ring with dozens of coloured ribbons hanging from it. I have never said any Mongolian words before. See what you get here? Learn Mongolian, the Hallay method. Before I sign off, I have a message for my dad, David Wolfe. Dad, watch Martin Chuzzlewit. You and Franco would love it. Anyway, you can contact me through my website, amandahallay.com. Join our Facebook group. We're always discussing this kind of thing over there. Check out our books on Dean Street Press, and I'll be back very soon with more episodes on the UFH. So just click that little circle to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.